Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this workshop. My name is Nancy Marr, and I'm with the Palos Verdes League of Women Voters and the Los Angeles County League of Women Voters. We have over 100 participants signed up for the workshop, and it is a Zoom meeting, not a webinar, so your image and placeholder will be able to be seen by all. Please keep your microphones muted so that telephones, barking dogs, and any other kind of sound won't disturb the presentations. Use the chat function to enter your questions or comments. Because it is a Zoom meeting and not a webinar, we don't have the Q&A function, but we do have chat, and you can put your questions into chat. This is a webinar relating to voter service, which is one of our key activities for our leagues. When we're getting out the vote, when we're not getting out the vote, we are registering voters and educating voters on issues. Tonight, we have 4 examples of successful voter service projects presented by 4 leagues. Our presenters are, and please wave your hand so people will identify you, Reve Moran of Santa Barbara, Bernadette Brooks and Robert Orsini of Napa, and Jennifer Baker will be joining them. Bob Fung of the Davis area, and Marnie Rubin of South San Mateo County. Each speaker will give a presentation followed by 5 minutes for questions that have been submitted in the chat for that particular project. At the end of the 4 presentations, there will be time for additional questions. When entering your questions in the chat, please indicate to whom the question is directed or whether it's directed to all of the presenters. So we're going to begin with Santa Barbara County and Reve. So please give me a moment to pull up your PowerPoint, Reve.
Okay, thank you. Yes, last year was a very interesting year indeed. Okay, well, interesting. Yes, my presentation is about what we did to reach voters during the pandemic. And if you go to slideshow, Nancy, then it should show full screen and start with page 1, start from the beginning.
Well, I would like to do that, but I've lost my, oh, no.
Oh, it's no big deal. It's not that.
No, I've lost, oh, okay. I'm going to have to change slides by using the sidebar, so I'm going to have to leave it in.
That's fine, no problem.
Sorry.
So Santa Barbara, our league covers all of South Santa Barbara County, including Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and Goleta. Last year, as all of us, as the COVID pandemic started to unfold, we realized we weren't going to be able to participate in the same in-person activities as in past years. So we decided to have a brainstorming session because we knew with the presidential election coming up, we needed to reach out to voters and we wanted to share ideas of how to do that. We also knew that there were going to be a lot of state and local propositions on the ballot. So the super creative members of our voter service committee suggested several ideas, including getting out the vote using the Easy Voter Guide and distributing them throughout our area to locations such as the food bank, retirement communities, housing authority facilities for low-income individuals, and small grocery stores in Latinx communities, including also the local libraries. So our first call was to the food bank. The good news was that they said yes, they would let us bring them Easy Voter Guides to distribute in their food boxes that they give out to the public. The bad news is that they said, we'd like 4,000 copies. I said, okay, I gulped and said, okay. We placed our first order in August and we got 4,000 Easy Voter Guides English. We got 2,500 in Spanish, and later we placed a second order for more Spanish guides. This is at their food distribution warehouse in Goleta. These are volunteers packing the Easy Voter Guides into the boxes, and they mostly give them to individuals who are low income, about half who are Hispanic families and half are elderly. That's an approximation. So they sent them out to people, and it was a real success. It was just one of our best efforts. And one of our team members came up with that idea. So we also delivered Easy Voter Guides to retirement communities. We delivered over 1,000 guides to retirement communities in Santa Barbara, Goleta, and Carpinteria. This is Gran Vida in Carpinteria, and it's a great facility. It ended up being a really good idea to give them a lot of Spanish guides because they have a lot of Spanish-speaking staff. One of our volunteers also took Easy Voter Guides to Transition House, which is a homeless shelter, the only one in Santa Barbara that serves families. We also have a facility called Hillside House, and one of our volunteers, in fact, a board member, used to work there, and they serve individuals with developmental disabilities. So that was a great way to reach another hard to serve community. This is one of our volunteers. It's just a real pistol. I love her. EJ decided that she wanted to take Easy Voter Guides to all of these small markets in Latinx neighborhoods called bodegas. So she made up these great signs that she put with the Easy Voter Guides, and they sold like hotcakes. She got many calls from the store owners asking her to bring more guides, so we had to order more of them in Spanish. This is Jen from our main Santa Barbara library. They were not open, but they had a takeout where you could order books and then come to pick up the books at their outdoor tables. So we gave them guides to put in the books. And we also gave them bookmarks for Voter's Edge. We had a lot of those on hand in both English and Spanish. We'd had them for a while, so we gave them to all the libraries to give out with their books. When mask making became the norm, we decided to order masks, and with big vote sticker on it and printed on it, and it helped us attract people to our tables. This is a healthy food pantry event at the Housing Authority. And we had the Easy Voter Guides and these vote masks, and it really helped attract people to our tables. We were able to explain to them and answer questions about the upcoming election and about the propositions. And so we had some of our Spanish-speaking volunteers help us out there. We also decided to hold a couple of candidate forums for the big local elections happening last year. One was for the state Senate and one for the state Assembly. Although we had to cancel the state Assembly forum because one of the two candidates dropped out, and we don't have empty chairs at our forums. But the other one for the state Senate was quite successful. We had it at the Santa Barbara Women's Club, and as you can see here, everyone was very socially distanced. We didn't have a live audience. We just had the candidates, our Spanish interpreter, and we had TVSB who recorded the whole thing. So the local public television station, TVSB, was able to live stream it on our Facebook page, and then they videotaped it for later viewing. And because Silvio Uribe, the owner of TransLPro, a wonderful local company, was able to provide simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, we posted the recordings of the forum in both English and Spanish. It was really a great way to reach voters safely last year, and we had over 270 views of the recordings that we posted. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to see if we have anything. I think we have questions in our chat. Well, we have some greetings in our chat. That's
Oh, and I saw there was a question about the cost of the Easy Voter Guides. And if you want to know the truth, I don't remember exactly. We did get a grant to reach out to certain communities that year from a local facility, the Santa Barbara Foundation. So we used some of that money to buy Easy Voter Guides.
okay. I wanted to ask you a question. How many League of Women Voters participants worked on this project?
We had a big team of our voter service committee, and there were probably about 20 people in all who helped. They came over to my house, picked up the Easy Voter Guides, and because they were delivered to my house by mail. And we had over 6,500 guides in total. So you get some for free, but then we had to purchase some, but we used our grant money to do that.
And another question that came in, did you have to pay for the translation for the Spanish, to Spanish for the forum?
We do that, but we have it for every single candidate forum and many of our community forums. And so that's just a regular part of our budget. It's not terribly expensive, but it's a couple $100 and it's well worth it. She gives us a real deal.
And where do you get your professional signs?
We have a lot of hand made signs that aren't really that professional, but some of them, I don't know, when we use them at tabling events, I don't know, they're friendlier because they're very much homemade. But we have some that we order from Vista Print, and they also have pretty good prices. So we have like the banner behind me, that's a horizontal banner. We have the vertical one that we use it's on a big stand that we put up behind the podium at our candidate forums and community forums.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And you'll have, the audience, you'll have a chance to ask more questions at the end of the full presentation. Did Jennifer Baker come in yet? There she is.
Yes, I'm here. She's
Okay.
here. All right.
Very blue. I've lost you.
Where are you, Jennifer?
I'm
There
in
you are.
Napa.
I see.
Oh, yeah.
Very funny.
The Napa presentation is next, but I need to make Jennifer
A host
able
or
to
a share person.
But I haven't found her on the list yet.
Yeah, I see her on the, well, I don't know if my list is ordered the same way. I see her near the top. Just
I
above.
got another question about the translation, but it's called interpretation when it's live, when you're out loud, and it's called translation when it's written products. So we actually have interpretation. I know I've had to make that shift, but she charges about $200 for a 2-hour forum, which is a real deal. But you know, the company's name is Transl Pro, and she's just wonderful. So she would be willing to do it for other people if you're doing it on Zoom, I'm sure.
Well, my problem is that I can't find Jennifer on the.
If I start talking, does that make a difference? Does that make me pop up somewhere?
I'm wondering, since I'm a co-host, if I can make her a co-host.
Oh, here, I can do it. I can do it from her
From my
from
box.
her little square.
Oh, no, she's
Okay, there it is. So you all can go ahead, Napa, with your presentation, and Jennifer, you should be able to screen share.
I believe I can. Give me just a second.
Well, I'll just do a quick intro. Bernadette Bernie Brooks, from one of the co-presidents of the Napa County League, together with Kim Farmer. And I'm also co-chair of our voter service committee. And tonight, our high school campaign subcommittee is doing the presentation. It actually consists of 3 people. Nancy Moore, who is a board member and who co-chairs this voter service with me. And she's taught kindergarten through 9th grade for 39 years. Robin Orsini, a former president and board member of Napa County League, who for many years taught professional language classes to college students and working adults. And our presenter, Jennifer Baker, a past board member who is the communications media specialist for the Napa Valley Unified School District and president of the Napa Valley College Board of Trustees. And as with all of the voter service projects this year, we had to try new strategies, and these 3, together with their years of experience in the educational environment, came up with a creative solution how we could get to teachers and high school students without actually having to physically be there. So I will now turn it over to Jennifer to present.
And I'm going to turn it over to Robin to get started.
Thank you. All right, so this was the campaign that we did in spring, right? Where COVID was in the middle. We were right in the middle of COVID. Everybody was online. So we moved online as well. Next slide, Jennifer.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that with my shared screen here because I've got 2. Let me just see what happens if I do this. There we go.
No,
Yay.
we're not supposed to have glitches. Okay, so what we're going to cover is what we did before, just briefly, what we did differently, and then how did we do that? What were our strategies? Because this is a whole new territory, basically. And then we want to talk about what we're going to do next with this model. Okay. So moving forward here. So what we did what most people, what leagues do, we got volunteers to go into our high school classrooms. We focused on throughout the county on seniors. We trained student leaders to help us present. That was really a wonderful program. Then we, Jennifer and I had developed, we had adapted a video called The History of Voting in America, which was part of our program to the classrooms. And that helped to engage the students with exercises and discussions and talking about voting. And then we, of course, focused on registering and pre-registering these students. So that was then. Then we had to adapt to an online model. How are we going to do that? So we curated rather quickly, I have to say, some videos and other support materials to read, and about 4 different subjects, and I'll get there in a minute. We made these videos available on a web page. We'll show you targeting grades 9 through 12. And then we made this content available to various audiences, something that is so wonderful for anytime you're online. And we used our social media channels as well. We, for example, communicated to parents directly, bilingually, and to all students in the Unified School District that were eligible to vote. So we directly asked them to please register. So these are just the slides. Just wanted to briefly show you what we included this time. So we had voting rights. Okay, next one, Jennifer. This is still voting rights for those. And then the next one, I'm sorry, voter suppression versus voter choices. It's important that when you talk, we can show the next one too, that when we talk about voter suppression, we found that it's really, really important to, because voter suppression sounds so terrible, it is so terrible, that we really educate our California audience about the importance of choice through the Voters' Choice Act in California. So we have to have that comparison. Okay, then of course, registering to vote, 2 slides there. And then we went on, this is something part of a series that Jennifer again and I did in English and Spanish. There are 4 all about elections and voting. This is the only one included in this particular campaign. Okay, then we have civics and elections together. And that is, of course, about the current election. How do you vote? What's on your ballot? And all sorts of education about the importance of voting. Okay, so then we can show the webpage that Jennifer sent out. This is the webpage with all of it on there. And instructions, she had letters and all various things of how to use this. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, because the next part is, well, how did we do this, and how does it work?
So some of this we already knew, and any of you who've worked with schools, especially large school districts, will know this. A lot of this had nothing to do with pandemic. This is just normal. So that was timing. If you're going to try to get into the classrooms, it was definitely more of an issue this year because of COVID. But you've got to start early, even if you're not making a physical visit. If you're trying to insert yourself into the curriculum or into the classroom in any form or fashion, you got to start early, because I work for a school district, and our rule of thumb is if you don't tell them before October, you might as well wait till next year. So because when school starts, they're just in it heavy. So we really recommend, especially if you're going to try to do anything in the fall, contact your schools before the end of the current school year, because over the summer you're never going to have any luck, and once school starts, they are nose to the grindstone. So I want to be very clear about what types of materials you're going to be providing and what the scope is. And one of the things we did too is we looked for resources that were available through the school district, and through the things that they were already subscribing to, or things that they had purchased, to utilize what they had available, and then supplemented it with other things as well. Really listened to what the teachers were saying that they wanted, what they needed, what their time constraints were going to be. And then we really just looked again for things that were free of charge. This was something that because we were working with the library services team from the school district, which I'm also a part of, we were able to really be thoughtful about pulling together the types of things that we knew would work well in the classroom, and that would also, with this new model of everything being online, give teachers a lot of flexibility to be able to use it in any way that they could. And I'll show you a little bit more about that on the next slide, but or actually on the slide after the next slide. But just keeping in mind that this is nothing. Anytime you put anything on the web, especially, it's not permanent. It's you're always going to be adding things. You're always going to be deleting things. You got to make certain it stays up to date. So want to make certain that if you create something, that you're not just going to let it sit out there and die on the vine. You've got to keep it up to date and make certain that it remains relevant, and also that the links that you're providing to are going to remain up to date as well. So rules of thumb, and I'll let you know that this is going to change depending on your district. One of the things I've learned working in a school district is that none of them do it the same way. Everybody has their own structure, and things can be a little bit all over the place. But one of the things that we have learned, that it's easiest to not contact the top and not contact the bottom. You want to kind of aim for the middle. If you're contacting the superintendent, if you're contacting the high school principal, those people are so busy, they will likely not even see your email, or if they do see it, they're just going to zap it to somebody else who probably won't even look at it. Same thing with teachers. Teachers are super, super busy. Most of them, especially if they've been doing this for decades, they've got their routine. It can be very difficult to introduce new things into the daily routines of teachers. So of course, this is all going to be caveats. If you have a personal relationship with a teacher, if you have a personal relationship with a superintendent or a principal, definitely utilize those. But if you're going in as a cold contact, try to go for the middle. So, and again, this is going to change depending on the structure of the school district. But your school library services is going to be a really great resource, especially if they have something centralized. Rather than going to the individual librarians or library techs at the schools, work out of the central office. Sometimes that might be through the Office of Education, County Office of Education. They are all different as well. Some of them have really, really great web pages. Some of them have okay web pages. Some of them have like, I think it's Contra Costa has amazing resources on their website. So it just, but that's the County Office of Ed. So you have to kind of look and see how they work with the school district. Also look at teacher leads. So rather than going to individual teachers, go to the head of the history department or the head of the English department. Find the people who are willing to talk to you and get in with them, and then they will help you distribute to the rest of your group. And then again, just finally, try again and again and again. If you don't get a response within 3 or 4 days of sending something, move on to the next person because getting into the classrooms, getting in, whether it be virtually or in person, it takes a lot of time and a lot of prep. And the sooner you can get that contact where somebody's actually speaking to you and you can have these conversations, the better. So you don't want to delay on that. So this is the thing that I think is going to be the most interesting for us moving forward. And I think for everyone in education, that everybody kept talking about going back to the way things were. Our new normal is going to be a very interesting mix of things. We are going to continue to have virtual meetings. We're going to continue to have some level of virtual school. A lot of the resources that we use now in the school district are things that we already had access to, but because we were forced to use them in the last year, we're finding that, oh, okay, yeah, I really like that resource and I'm going to continue to use it. So that's one of the things that we built this in mind. With that in mind, is to be able to use this moving forward, because the resource list can work for an individual, it could work for a classroom, it could work for a family, and or it could just work, it could be something that is done independently by students, and it could be something that's done as a complete module. We wanted to keep it very scalable, very flexible, so that a teacher could use it where they assigned it and the students could do it independently, or they could do it together. So we're looking at probably a hybrid model. If you're not familiar with the flipped classroom concept, that's something that is really big right now too, and we really kept that in mind when we were putting this together. And that is the concept where students are given the information or the content ahead of time, they review it, and then they do what we would normally you think of as being homework, the exercises they do together in the classroom. So they've basically taken it where instead of doing the homework at home, you do the homework in class together. So that's what the whole concept of the flipped classroom is about. But we really wanted to keep it very flexible and make it very easy for people to use this in as little or as much as they wanted to. All of the videos and things that we provided, we did go a lot with the visual, a lot with video content, very short pieces. I think the longest video we included was 10 minutes because we wanted it to be something that teachers could, if they had 10 minutes or if they had 15 minutes in a class, they could use it, or they could assign the kids to pick one and do it together as a group, or watch this when you have time for extra credit. And we also, as Robin mentioned, we put this out via our communication tools through the school district to where all of the parents had it. We let them know that why we were doing it, what we were doing, when we were doing it, and here it is. You can look at it yourself, and look at these as a family. Then we also, again, were really targeted in terms of getting the information on how to register to vote for the students who were going to be 18 years old by election day. And so we sent very targeted messages to just those students via email through the school district. So, and included links to all of these different resources as well. So again, scalable is one of the main things, making certain it was age appropriate. One of the things we did too with all of the YouTube videos that we found, we made certain that they were from groups that were authoritative and that we could trust. And so we used a lot of TED Ed. We used a couple of different groups that make content specifically for schools. And then even though they're available on YouTube, we ran them through a program called ViewPure. So that takes out the ads and things so that we can make that available to the students without the ads and other things that they would be bombarded with through YouTube. And then we just, again, wanted to make it where we will be continually adding and subtracting things to this. We didn't want to be overwhelmed. I think there's 14 total resources in that package that we delivered. We would probably never go over 20 simply because kids don't scroll, adults don't scroll. If they don't see it at the top, they're not going to click on it. So that was kind of our general plan. And you can go and you can actually see the content on our website because Sherry, our wonderful communications person, put it up today. So you can go and look at it.
Plus we have videos on YouTube, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So, and we're constantly adding resources, by the way,
Yeah.
and you're welcome to use anything that you want to take.
Yeah, everything. In fact, the web address that we use where where this lives, the platform is available for anybody to use. It lives in the library services database at Napa County, at the Napa Unified School District, but anybody can access it, anybody can use it. And all of the content that's in it is things that are available to anyone. We were very specific that we did not put in anything that required a special password or required a special subscription. We wanted to make certain that we were making it available not just to our students, but also anyone else who might happen upon it.
I wanted to add one thing, and that is, this is online only because of the spring schedule in Napa County where nobody was going to classes, or very few. We can take this material and the teacher can say, look, I want you to talk about gerrymandering, or I want you to talk about your ballot, or whatever it is. We can pull constantly from this and still go in the classroom, still do a flipped version in the classroom where we're helping to lead the discussion or the students are doing it. So this is why it's not only scalable and flexible, but it's our new normal. We can really get our archives together as counties. And perhaps
we do have several questions in the chat, so we need to go on to those questions. One of them was, what were the sources of your videos?
There are a variety of different things. Primarily, I went in, I'm a librarian, and so this is the kind of work that I do. So we went in and we're looking for things on very specific topics. We decided which 4 areas we were going to try to cover with this. And then we went in looking specifically for things that were made by these groups that we knew were authoritative, these groups that we knew made content specifically for this age group. And then we looked for things that were very highly visual, couple of things that are interactive even, but most of the, I think about 3/4 of it at least is video content and things that you could watch in 10 minutes. And the thing about it, if you actually go to it through YouTube, rather than going through ViewPure, you'll find that there's oftentimes, okay, well, this one's about gerrymandering, but if you want to learn about XYZ, there's all of these other topics that are related, and you can go way down the rabbit hole with that one and have fun. But
just a caveat, though, as League, we really do have to be careful about partisan and check our policies. For example, voter suppression, we think is okay. But other people might have a different view of that, but we think that we're okay with that. Which is, it's not partisan, but we do advocate for getting.
And we also looked for things that we thought would spark conversations, that, because that might be something that, as an individual or a group of students or an entire classroom might decide, okay, we're going to watch this 10-minute video, and then they would be referred to the entire list, but they were just going to be talking about that one little bit in that classroom.
Okay, there was a question about partisanship, so I'm glad that you mentioned that you did screen your material for that
Oh, yeah.
basis. I think at this point we are going to need to move on, and there are still more questions in the chat, and you're welcome to respond to the questions by answering them in the chat too.
Yeah.
While we're going on to the next presentation, which is going to be Bob Fong. So Jennifer, if you could remove
I can
your
unshare.
unshare.
We figure out how to do that. Here we go. There you go.
Great. Okay, so Bob, you're up next, and I'm going to
Great.
put your presentation in for sharing here.
Okay. Thanks, Nancy.
There we go. Should be up. And we'll do.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Bob Fung. I'm the chair of voter service for the League of Women Voters in the Davis area, which is in Yolo County. It includes different parts of Yolo County, including Davis. Next slide, please. So one thing about our chapter is that we're new. We just started in the August of 2019, and we're a Moss Mall unit, members around the state. So we're basically attached to the. Oops, could you go back? We're attached to the state organization, and we follow on. There was a long-time Davis chapter that started in the 1960s, I think, which dissolved in 2015. And in 2019, a former member of that chapter decided she wanted to restart the league in Davis. So she did that with some help from a few other people. Could you just go back? Yeah, Jackie Canfield is our chapter advisor, and as a Moss Mall unit, we get a lot of support from Jackie, which we really appreciate. We have over 125 members now, and we have the committees that are listed there. We have a kind of, we separate out voter registration from voter service so that we have a chair of voter registration separately. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to be talking about synopses, which are sort of documentations of public agency decisions. So the public agencies, locally are the city you live in, the school board, the county that you live in, and then the major decisions by those public agencies are made by the governing boards of each public agency, the city council for your city, the school board, and the county board of supervisors. And public decisions, they make decisions about finances, about budgets, and of course this isn't about COVID, but of course every public agency last year had to make decisions about how they would address COVID. So, which is very important for the citizens of that live in their district. And cumulatively, the decisions that these public agencies make are really important to the citizens that live in their area. Next slide. So how do citizens become informed about these important decisions? For many of the decisions, there's very little media coverage. And for some controversial decisions, there's lots of opinions and lots of materials to sort through. So because of this one situation that I'll talk about a little bit, we decided that we would try to develop a process which was informative, which would tell people in as little space as possible what was going on, that was nonpartisan, and that was easy for them to understand and as quickly as possible. And we would make it widely available and try to make it easy to produce. So that was what we were going for. And we developed in 2020, based upon this particular decision, a format for a synopsis, which includes an introduction, which just lays out the background for the decision, what was decided, and including that in the decision description, what say different members of the board thought about the decision. So, and then after that, this is old slide, but in place of arguments for and arguments against, we have the next section was community response. So what did people in the community think about the decision? And we we would get from the community people who agreed with the decision and people who disagreed with the decision. And then a timeline of how the decision was made, and finally references that people could check to if they wanted more information. So the decision that sort of caused us to work on in this area on synopses was a decision made by the city of Davis in March of 2020. They approved a solar land lease on city-owned land. Could you just go back one, Nancy?
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to flip that one.
That's okay. That's all right. And the decision kind of came up very quickly. There wasn't any sort of review of the decision prior to the decision being made by the commissions in town, the relevant citizen commissions in town. And so after the decision was made, there was significant pushback from citizens who were writing editorials and maybe making public comments at both commissions and the city council. And we just thought that summarizing the situation would be helpful to citizens to help them understand what happened and where they could look for more information. And being new to the League of Women Voters, we started off with a basic pros and cons format, and we modified it over time to for this particular situation. We're not asking a voter to look at the pros and cons and make a decision. We're looking at his decision that's already made and just helping citizens to understand what the decision rationale was for the decisions. So we had this idea that voter service committee had the idea, the board approved us going ahead with it. Jackie Canfield was very helpful in reviewing the drafts that we wrote. The final format or the final document was 2 pages in length, 900 words, which is just a little bit, it's kind of like a long newspaper article. And as I said, we had the draft reviewed both by citizens who agreed with the decision and citizens who disagreed with the decision. We had one from each side, both of who had written editorials in the local newspaper. And we had them review the final draft. They okayed it, and then we brought it to the board of our chapter and published the final version to our members. So we think that this could be something that kind of a process that league chapters might think about using. We got good reviews of the synopsis. The production process took a little bit, took a long time because we didn't quite know we didn't quite know what we were doing at first. But we think that we could, over time, produce like a manual that says how to do it, kind of like for Observer Corps, like how do you fill out an Observer Corps report? And we think that it's complementary to both Observer Corps, what the Observer Corps does and what pros and cons do. So, for example, if the chapter is observing, say, the city council, and some issue comes up, they could say, "Oh, okay, this looks like something that citizens would be interested in. Let's do a synopsis of the decision after the decision is made." So, and the idea is to provide citizens with a library of synopsis so that they can look back. It's kind of like a decision history, so they can, if there's a city council election, they can go back and say, "Oh, this city council person decided this and this and this on these different important decisions," and sort of use that in their decision-making process of who to vote for. And of course, this is just something that we did over a few months. Much more experience is needed, and we plan on doing a couple more synopses of issues that are going on in the city of Davis this year. So thanks very much for your attention. I'd be glad to answer any questions. And I just right now just put my email in chat in case anybody wants a copy of the synopsis that we put together. So energy.org.
Okay, I'm going to find the chat and see if we have some questions for you.
Okay, let me look here. Yes, this one question from Eleanor says, "Is the long-range goal to have citizens become more aware of and involved in local decision-making that impacts the community?" Yes, that is the goal. So you know, a lot of citizens, they hardly follow what's going on because it takes too much trouble. It takes too much time to sort of get involved in an issue. So usually at our city council meetings, there's the same, 20 people there who are asking questions and are giving their opinions about things. And I think that some mechanisms need to be put in place where a citizen can just say, "Oh, I read something about this in the paper. Let me just read this thing to figure out what's going on. Okay, I know what's going on. Okay, that makes me more interested, and I'm going to go look at the city council video of whatever March, and just hone in on that part of the discussion to see really what happened." So yeah, that and it's not easy, but that's our goal.
Also, it says one of the questions was the synopsis made available to the public, and if so, how?
It wasn't made available to the public. It was our first one, but I didn't. So we've in Davis, things are a little controversial. So we decided that we would, for the first time, we would just publish it to our members. But in the future, we would do that.
So did you have a team of researchers that worked together on this?
Yes, we did. We had a lot of. I was the main author, but we had a lot of people contributing. The name synopsis came from one of the board members. Jackie Canfield reviewed many drafts of it. We talked about the format. We talked about it at voter service meetings. So yeah, there was a number of people involved in that.
One last question from the chat. What if the decision relates to something the league has taken a position on? Would you still do the synopsis?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, you might know that, might or might not know that Moss Mall units are not able to take local positions. So we don't, at the moment, we don't have that that issue. But yes, if the chapter did take a position on the issue, then I think we might not be able to do a synopsis, or we'd have to be very careful about how to do that. I'll just respond to something that Carol Moon Goldberg comment that she made. She said, "This sounds like a legislative history of a decision." That's right. But one thing that we add is the response of other groups to the decision itself. So just not what happened, not just what happened in the legislature or in the governing body to make the decision, but what other groups thought about the decision.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's move on to our final one. And there is a little note in the chat because someone is concerned over Patricia Malchuk having a flashing light going on and off in one of your rooms. Maybe that's okay, but just we wanted to make sure you were aware of it. Okay, we're going to move then to Marnie Rubin and South San Mateo County. And I am going to put up Marnie's.
Great, thank you. I'll just go ahead as you get started, Nancy. I'll get started as you pull up our slides.
Yes, I didn't get that. I clicked the wrong thing. There we go.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much. My name is Marnie Rubin, and I'm the Director of Voter Service in the League South San Mateo County, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Nancy, if you could go back to the first slide, that'd be great.
Okay. Is that the
yes,
first?
perfect.
Okay.
That's great. So, and I wanted to say thank you so much to the State League and the organizers for letting us present tonight. We're very proud of our teamwork that we accomplished in 2020, not only with our voter service team, but our entire chapter and our community outreach and partnerships as well. We feel like it was really a true team effort to bring the community together and our league. So we're very excited to share it with you and look forward to collaborating with other chapters if you're interested in talking with us about what we did in 2020. So just a little bit of background about our work. It was based on a grant that came from the County of San Mateo Board of Supervisors. They decided that they wanted to provide a $100,000 grant to several different community organizations in 2020 to assist with, at the time, it was voter registration, making sure that people are voting in the 6 cities in our county, and for us with the 6 cities that we work with in South San Mateo County. Once COVID hit, the messaging turned into a huge emphasis on voting by mail and also voting early. But the main emphasis was making sure that communities knew that their vote was safe and secure during the time of COVID, so that they felt secure in casting their ballots. So that was the messaging that we were trying to get out. Once COVID hit in March, we really focused early in the year on in-person events, registration, lots of different great events. But once COVID hit, we went completely virtual. As a group, we decided to do that for the safety of our members and our volunteers. So with that, we had a multi-pronged approach, which you'll see here. And we tried very hard to document everything that we did with our approach. So we have a lot of numbers that you'll see, but one of my teammates designed this great presentation, so hopefully it all makes sense And I'll just work my way around, starting with our overall number of voters reached in our efforts at 32,346 or so. So, and then I'll just go ahead, and we had 51 voter outreach activities, as you see. And this was, again, pretty much the last part of 2020 for the presidential election. We did work in the primary up until March, and then this work was for the presidential election. And so I'll just make my way around and just kind of let you know a little bit about what we did. And one other point to make is that we focused in our work on 11 precincts within our cities that we work with. We focused on 11 precincts that had more underrepresented voters or very low voter turnout in those areas. That was part of what the board wanted to see as well. And these happen to be predominantly Spanish-speaking precincts, or with a 50 to 75% or more percentage of Spanish speakers or Latinx voters. So we also had some Chinese voters as well, but we decided, because of the high percentage of Spanish speakers, that we would really focus on that everything that we did would be in Spanish and English. We did a postcard program where we had two sets of postcards that we designed and mailed out that were both in Spanish and English, again, with our messaging of vote by mail, vote early, your vote is safe, your vote is important, those kinds of words and messaging. And on 4,000 of those postcards, we were also able to jot personal notes. We had volunteers help jot notes. Again, your vote is important, and those sorts of things. We also had banners that we designed and put up in high traffic areas of East Palo Alto. We also had a high school and community college student program. We reached a little over 1,100 students through those programs. Our student outreach coordinator is just amazing, and she's a separate part, but also part of voter services as well. But she was in charge of that and reached students through 9 different outreach events. We were on a Gen Z conference panel, which was super. And again, these were all, via Zoom, all virtual events. We held phone and text banks as well. So we did about 4,500 dials in both Spanish and English with our phone and text banks. Just reminding people to register, giving them the information via text and via phone. And we had a very good response rate on that. People really wanted to talk. So that was fun. We had attendance at an online Spanish pros and cons program. So this was done by our friends over at the North and Central San Mateo County League, but we had 15 participants, and that was completely in Spanish. So they did a phenomenal job. And lastly, we had a Google Ads program that was just incredible. We got a lot of click-throughs, over 4,000 click-throughs, and over 647,000 impressions from counting all these things on Google. So we feel like that was, again, those messages were where to vote, how to vote, lots of very simple Google Ads. So that's a synopsis of what we did. And next slide, please, Nancy. Great. So we're very proud, as I mentioned, about our partnership outreach, because we could not have done this without our partners in the community. We had, our team was 3 of us, although our programs team did our pros and cons, and our president did our candidate forums. So we spread it out, but our team was 3 people or so. But we had so many volunteers helping out, including outreach from everything from students to veterans. We worked with the Veterans Administration to get vets registered and hand-delivered their ballots for them. So we were really proud to be part of the community. You'll see below here, we had over 15 partnerships with different community organizations. I won't list them all because they're here, you can see, but we did work with the city of Palo Alto, Boys and Girls Club, Sequoia High School, and a big one, We Vote Redwood City and Casa Circulo Cultural, as well as the San Mateo County Elections Office and a Thrive, which is an alliance of nonprofits, which is just an amazing organization. So we worked with those on all different aspects of our of what we did. And one thing that we were also really proud of is we were able to, with our grant, which was approximately $21,000 for reference, we were able to have 10 paid Latina community organizers from our focus areas. And they helped us. They all spoke Spanish. They helped us with our phone banks. They helped us with the jotting of the notes. They were out in the communities, dropping off the voter guides and dropping off the postcards and going to the Hispanic markets and really helping us. And we were able to pay them an hourly rate to help us out. So we feel like we were really reinvesting in the communities that we served. So that was we felt like that was a great part of what we did, and we made lots of great friends that way in our community. So that's our partnerships. Next slide, please, Nancy. So, so of course we wanted to, we definitely were able to capture all of our results in the slides you saw before of how many dials and that sort of thing. We did want to, look at our overall voter turnout and kind of try to look at our results and our impact on how many people actually voted by mail. Of course, we aren't data scientists or data analysts, so we can't really say, we sent out X amount of postcards and that resulted in X amount of people registering or X amount of people voting. So we unfortunately don't have that kind of correlation, but we like to see that we helped with an upward trend, and it's a directional trend and in a positive way for voter turnout and people feeling comfortable voting by mail in the precincts that we worked with. So just briefly, you'll see the overall voter turnout. I have it's 2020 versus 2016. You'll see in the red circles. And then we have San Mateo County results, which is our county, and we were at 85.9% overall voter turnout in 2020, so about 5% increase over 2016. All of California was 80.6, again, about a 5% increase over 2016. And at the bottom, you'll see our focus precincts. We started out with 11 of them, but ended up, as you'll see at the bottom, with 13, 23, about 28 precincts. We ended up expanding our reach a little bit. So in Redwood City was the predominant amount of precincts that we worked in, and it was 78% overall voter turnout, which is close, not quite as high as the whole county, but getting very close to the California average versus 46% in 2016. So we definitely, again, we see that kind of upward trend. And I'll talk in a second. Of course, it wasn't all us, impact. I'll talk about the other things that impacted this this race, of course, this presidential election. But in East Palo Alto, you'll see 72% overall turnout and up from 35% in 2016. So we really feel like we hope we helped in that way. And the Bellhaven neighborhood of Menlo Park is 78% as well. So up from 43% in 2016. So again, as I mentioned, we can't I'm looking at a little bit over here, but these are directional numbers that show hopefully that we made some impact. So Nancy, next slide. And of course, as I mentioned, there are election influencers. Of course, there was an aggressive get out the vote effort, COVID-19, high profile election, and of course, vote by mail. In our county, in California, vote by mail was just a huge game changer. So we did see in San Mateo County, 91% vote by mail and 86% in overall California. But in our focus precincts, you'll see we were 88% of vote by mail. So we feel like that was high, and we're hoping that we somehow helped with that aspect to make people feel secure voting by mail. So that is our 2020 work. Just the last slide, Nancy, please. And so what will we do in 2021? Our focus or focuses, foci. Our focus will be voter registration at community events, and we're hoping to be able to go back in person safely as soon as possible. We'd like to expand our focus areas, particularly with schools. So we are happy to see everybody's great suggestions on working with schools. We really want to nurture and expand our community partnerships. And a side note, the We Vote Redwood City Executive Director that we worked with on this project is now going to be the president of our League of Women Voters chapter. So amazingly, that shows you the partnership and community outreach is just so powerful for the League. So she'll be our new president, and we're so excited. So we do want to also work on voter protection and anti-suppression efforts and the governor's recall election, if and when that happens. So those are things that we'll be working on with our phone banks and postcards and different stuff that we'll be doing. So, and with that, I just wanted to say we'd love to collaborate with anyone on anything, on any of these aspects, and I'll put my contact info in the chat if anybody has wants to contact me and our team. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And let's see what we have in the chat here. Let's see. Okay, I've not heard much or anything about using traditional and social media, Google ads, for example, to help with each of these activities presented. Were those not determined to be helpful?
That's a great question. And we did use them a bit. I should probably put them on the slide, but it was more our communications team that worked on that. We updated our website as much as possible with different events. And we do have a Facebook page and not a ton of social media, but the Google ads was very, very helpful for us. So, but yeah, a little bit of social media. Good question, thanks.
Okay, what are your initial plans regarding the recall? My understanding is that League will not or does not take a position on recalls since they are valid elections and involve candidates. Right.
So we haven't confirmed that yet, that we will be involved, but for us, it's all about education, voter education, as with everybody. So it would just be about making sure that people know what it means to vote yes, what it means to vote no, what just educating them on the process of voting and making sure that they do vote so that their voice is heard. So it wouldn't be taking a position at all. So I hope that answers your question.
How did you get the addresses for your postcarding?
Yeah, so we worked very well with the San Mateo County Elections Office. They were fantastic. And it was very easy to get the voter rolls. So it was, I think, $125. And we were able to get the entire voter roll for all of San Mateo County. And that included names, phone numbers, email addresses sometimes, and tons of information. And it came in an Excel spreadsheet. So we were able to completely manipulate that database or, that Excel spreadsheet and get the information we needed. So the addresses, that's where we got addresses for postcards, phone numbers for phone banks and text banks. And yeah, so, but again, your local elections office, if you're not already working with them, can be really, really helpful.
Did you collaborate with other grant recipients on the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thrive, which is the Alliance of Nonprofits that I mentioned earlier, had monthly meetings with all nonprofits in the area that were involved in this grant. And so there were, at any one time, there were 15 or 20, people on the call they were Zoom calls. They were meetings in person at first, but then they became Zoom calls. So we collaborated. That's how we met the city of East Palo Alto clerk, city clerk. That's how we met the elections office, you know, so that was great. So if there's a Thrive organization or some sort of alliance in your area, they're a really good resource.
I love this partnership between LWV and schools, community organizations, nonprofits. How did you track the number of people and activities impacted by your efforts?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the chat. How did we track it? How do we track our efforts, our results?
Yeah, the people impacted. Yeah.
Oh, the people impact. Oh, that's, oh, okay. So we, one of our teammates who designed this presentation, it was her idea actually, to see what our results were. And so she was able to go and look up all of the data that I presented to you, plus a ton more. It's in a PDF. I'm happy to share it. It's literally just a huge spreadsheet of all sorts of different stuff. And so we just pulled, you know, different relevant data from that. But she was able to track that from the elections office, from the web, and just different resources. So, you know, the vote by mail percentages and all of the voter turnout and all of that. So I hope that answers the question.
What was the source of your grant funds? Thrive?
No, the County Board of Supervisors.
Oh,
so the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors put out $100,000 grant and then divvied it up. Yep. And then it was administered by the Silicon Valley Community Foundation.
Okay.
That also gives grants as well.
Now we have a few more minutes, so we can take questions to any of the panelists now. That if you have another question that you didn't get to answer previously on one of the other panelists, I'm going to ask one question of everybody. Just a sort of brief answer. How did you recruit your league members or your community volunteers? Anybody can speak up, any of you.
People in Santa Barbara are just really interested in voter registration. That just seemed like something they really want to do. We've had a lot of different National Voter Registration Day activities, and people who volunteered for those are the ones we go back to and say, would you like to work on this other project?
I can say that in former high school campaigns, particularly, we're a small county, but we called on our sister organizations, mostly sisters. We just put out the call, and year after year, a lot of the same people come. And this is when we can go into the classrooms, and I'm sure that will happen again. So we 30 to 40 every time, and that's good for our community, which is very small.
A question about how many members does each of your groups have, each of your leagues, local leagues have? And of course, Bob Fung mentioned that he had 125 in his group. What about the rest of you?
I happen to know exactly because we just went to we're going to Club Express, so we had to upload our member data rolls, and it's 235.
Okay.
Napa County is, I believe, Bernie, 70?
I don't know the exact count, but in the low 70s.
68 to 70.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And the South San Mateo League, I want to say 200 or so, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But
people asked him for if each of your presenters would make sure that your email is in the chat in case they would like to get a hold of you. And a couple of you have put it in already, but if you haven't, would you please add it? And I want to also add that this recording is going to be available along with the recording of all the workshops on the convention website after the convention has concluded. So you'll be able to go back and look at this recording or a recording of any of the other workshops. Yeah. And the caucuses as well, Carol, is that correct?
Oh, that's a good question. I did a meet the slate and didn't record it. So I think the other caucuses were, the Meet the Slate's a little bit different, but yeah. Now I
You-
feel guilty.
You can see on the caucus, I mean, on the website, once it's up, they'll all be listed. I'm trying to see if they're, no, these are mostly, okay, about your information there. Well, someone has put in the chat, and you probably can all read it yourself, but I thought I'd mention our league has a new VS team we're calling Election Confidence Team, which has recruited 4 student volunteers to produce some videos this summer. One on the path of the ballot and a Q&A working with the registrar. That's really good. Okay, any other quick questions or comments that you'd like to make? Well, I want to thank all of these presenters. These were wonderful projects and innovative, and gave us all a lot of ideas. And so thank all of you for being willing to share and to be with us tonight, and all of the various participants who joined in to find out more about these voter service projects. I want to thank all of you for being present as well. And if that, I guess that is the end of the workshop for tonight, and we'll all be ready for more tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, for
Thank you so much.
moderating.
Thank you, everybody, especially the speakers
Thank you for having us.
and Nancy.
Well, I learned a lot tonight. I've been taking notes.
Me too, thank you.
So we're off of the recording, so you're welcome to chat at will now.
Great ideas. Thank you.
Nancy, are you saving the chat?
You know, I am. I always do.
Okay. I'd love to see it when.
Okay, I certainly can send it out to you once it's on my computer.
Yay.
Yeah, it's hard when you're going along to get all of the questions, because and hard to scroll back to the right place to pick up a question you missed when you're doing the chat. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I always save it.
Yeah, smart. Sometimes you'll look back and you'll see, oh, I completely missed someone's comment or just didn't see it at all. So.
Oh, I said stop recording.